She dominated grown men in one of the most dangerous motorsports on Earth. She became a fan favorite on one of YouTube's biggest recovery channels. Then, without warning, Katelynn Boren vanished from the spotlight. No goodbye video, no dramatic exit, just silence. While Matt's off-road recovery continues rolling out content, fans can't stop asking the same question: where did she go? Her story isn't just about leaving a YouTube channel, it's about a teenage prodigy who conquered impossible odds, then walked away from it all. And what happened next might surprise you. When Katelynn Boren first appeared on Matt's off-road recovery, most viewers had no idea they were watching one of the youngest professional rock crawlers in the country. She wasn't just some kid tagging along for content. This teenager from Hurricane, Utah, was already making headlines in the extreme motorsports world, competing against drivers twice her age and winning. Matt met Katelynn and her father Kevin through the tight-knit rock crawling community. Kevin had been competing for over 20 years, but he faced a constant problem: finding a reliable spotter who could communicate perfectly under pressure. The solution came from an unexpected place: his own daughter. By the time she was 11, Katelynn was behind the wheel learning the basics. By 14, she was competing in national championships. Her role on Matt's channel gave fans a glimpse into her personality, but it barely scratched the surface of what she was accomplishing off-camera. While other teens were worried about homework and high school drama, Katelynn was navigating vertical rock faces in a modified Jeep, making split-second decisions that could mean the difference between victory and a costly rollover. The pressure would crush most adults. For her, it was just another weekend. The rock-crawling world had never seen anything like Katelynn Boren. Picture this: a 14-year-old girl pulling up to competitions where grown men with decades of experience are trying to prove themselves. Most people would assume she'd finish last. Instead, she dominated them. In her last 6 competitions before gaining wider recognition, she finished first 4 times and second twice. These weren't beginner events either. She was competing in Sportsman C class, then moved up to Pro Mod, facing the toughest courses and most skilled drivers in the country. The sport itself is brutal. Competitors have 10 minutes to navigate their vehicle through a series of coned gates across terrain that seems impossible to cross. One wrong move means hitting a cone, timing out, or worse, rolling the vehicle. Kevin would run around the Jeep as Katelynn drove, shouting directions over the engine noise, helping her navigate obstacles that veteran drivers struggled with. The father-daughter team, known as Crazy K's, became legendary in the circuit. In 2021, they competed in both the Eastern and Western Series, traveling from Texas to Colorado to Washington State. They took first place in both point series that year. At one event in Goldendale, Washington, she battled against Chris McKenzie and Josh Griffin for the championship, slowly closing a 37-point gap until she clinched second place overall. She even won the flex ramp competition with a score of 10-19. But winning wasn't what made her story remarkable. Here's where Katelynn's story gets even more impressive. Rock crawling isn't cheap. Building and maintaining a competition vehicle costs tens of thousands of dollars. Travel expenses, entry fees, replacement parts after inevitable damage, it adds up fast. Most adult competitors struggle to fund their hobby. So when Kevin told his teenage daughter they needed sponsors to continue, most parents would expect to make those calls themselves. Katelynn picked up the phone and did it herself. At 14 years old, she cold-called companies and pitched herself as a sponsored athlete. And it worked. She landed deals with major industry names: Maxxis Tires, Warren Industries, Yukon Gear, and Axle, Raceline Wheels, Adams Drive Shaft, and over a dozen others. These companies typically sponsor experienced adult drivers with proven track records. She convinced them to bet on a teenager. Think about that for a second. While her classmates were asking their parents for lunch money, she was negotiating sponsorship deals and managing a competition budget. She learned business skills most people don't develop until their 20s. The sponsors didn't just hand her free parts out of pity either. She delivered results, bringing them victories and exposure at national events. Her success proved that age means nothing when you've got skill and determination. But all that pressure, all that travel, All those expectations, they come with a cost nobody talks about. Then something changed. In June 2024, Katelynn Boren posted about competing at the Delta Classic Rock Crawl, and fans noticed something immediately. Katelynn wasn't there. Instead, Kevin's younger child, Sydney, was spotting for him. The post was casual, almost brushing past it. Unfortunately, Katelynn decided to not come this year, so we switched some things up. No explanation, no details, just she's not here. That's when people started asking questions. Her LinkedIn profile still listed her as working with Matt's off-road recovery, but she hadn't appeared in videos. Her Instagram account, with just over 300 followers, showed minimal activity and a cryptic bio. Consistently inconsistent. No posts about competitions, no updates about what she was doing. Meanwhile, Matt's channel kept pumping out content featuring other crew members, but Katelynn was nowhere to be seen. The community started speculating. Some thought she might be focusing on school. Others wondered if the pressure got to be too much. A few suggested she simply aged out of the YouTube lifestyle, but nobody had real answers. Unlike other cast members who left Matt's channel with goodbye videos or clear explanations, Katelynn just faded away. No drama, no public statements. One day she was there, the next she wasn't. And in today's world where everyone shares everything online, that silence felt deafening. Here's the thing most fans don't realize. Katelynn isn't the first person to leave Matt's off-road recovery quietly. The channel has seen multiple departures over the years. Lizzie left in 2023 to focus on ranching with her husband. Rudy, Matt's own son, branched off to start his own channel. Tucker moved on after working as the video editor. Skeeter headed to the Texas oil fields. The pattern is clear. People grow, priorities shift, and life pulls them in different directions. But Katelynn's case feels different. Most cast members were adults making career decisions. She was still a teenager when she disappeared from public view. At 14, she was juggling national competitions, YouTube filming, sponsors, school, and the pressure of being in the spotlight. By 2024, she would have been around 17 or 18, prime age for major life decisions, college applications, career choices, maybe just wanting a normal teenage experience without cameras and expectations. The rock crawling community noticed her absence from competitions too. Events that used to feature the Crazy K's team started showing just Kevin competing, sometimes with Sydney, sometimes with other spotters. No official announcements, no retirement from the sport. She simply stopped showing up. And given how expensive and time-consuming competitive rock crawling is, especially when you're trying to maintain sponsor relationships, stepping away makes sense. But it doesn't make people any less curious about what really happened. Let's talk about what nobody mentions when they celebrate young prodigies. Katelynn spent her early teenage years doing something extraordinary, but extraordinary comes with a price. She logged roughly 90 hours on the road with her father in just 1 year, not counting practice time, vehicle maintenance, and competition prep. That's 90 hours away from friends, school activities, and normal teenage experiences. She was learning skills most adults never master: negotiating with sponsors, managing pressure, making split-second decisions with thousands of dollars on the line. But she was also missing out on being just a kid. No Friday night football games, no hanging out at the mall, no teenage drama that seems important at the time but doesn't actually matter. Instead, she was climbing into a roll cage and competing against men in their 30s and 40s. The physical demands were intense too. Rock crawling requires constant focus, quick reflexes, and the mental toughness to recover from mistakes in real time. Add YouTube filming on top of that, and suddenly every competition isn't just about winning, it's about creating content, maintaining an image, and meeting fan expectations. That's a lot for anyone, let alone someone who should be worried about prom dates and college applications. Maybe stepping away wasn't giving up. Maybe it was the smartest decision she could make. So where is Katelynn Boren today? The honest answer is, we don't know, and that's probably how she wants it. Based on her age, she's likely 18 or 19 now, possibly in college, or pursuing a career path that doesn't involve cameras and public scrutiny. Her LinkedIn still lists Hurricane, Utah as her location, suggesting she hasn't moved far from home. But beyond that, she's kept her life private. Some possibilities make sense. She could be focusing on education, using those business skills she developed to pursue something completely different. Maybe she's still involved in the off-road world, but just behind the scenes, away from competition and YouTube. Or perhaps she simply decided that the life she was living at 14 wasn't the life she wanted at 18. And that's completely fair. The rock-crawling community seems to have accepted her absence without much drama. Her father Kevin continues competing, now working with Sydney. Matt's channel moves forward with other cast members. Life goes on. But her legacy remains. She proved that age and gender mean nothing when you've got skill and determination. She showed young women that they can compete in male-dominated sports and win. And then she showed everyone something even more important. You're allowed to walk away from something you're good at if it's not making you happy anymore. Sometimes the bravest choice isn't pushing forward, it's knowing when to stop. In a world obsessed with constant updates and oversharing, Katelynn Boren's silence is almost revolutionary. She came, she conquered, and she left on her own terms. No tearful goodbye video, no dramatic explanation, no monetizing her exit. She simply chose privacy over fame, and in doing so, taught us something valuable about success. Being good at something doesn't mean you owe the world that talent forever. Her story as one of the youngest professional rock crawlers in history can't be erased. Those championships, those sponsorships, those moments of teenage excellence, they're documented forever. But what comes next is hers alone to decide. Maybe she'll return to the spotlight someday with a new venture. Maybe she's perfectly happy living a private life away from cameras and competitions. Either way, she's earned the right to choose. The fans who keep asking, "Where is Katelynn?" might never get a satisfying answer. And maybe that's the point. Not every story needs a public ending. Sometimes the most powerful statement you can make is stepping away when everyone expects you to stay. Katelynn Boren proved she could beat the odds, dominate a dangerous sport, and build a career before she could vote. Now she's proving she can do something even harder, live life on her own terms, away from the noise. And honestly, that might be her greatest achievement yet.